Hello, hello, lovely people. Hello, internet. Welcome to I'm Not Trying to Kill You. We're doing a special episode today where no one's trying to kill anyone. It's wild, or at least not yet. We'll see. We'll see what Karen has in store for us. I'm Ash, your host, and I use she/her pronouns. This is my channel. And I have with me today four amazing role-playing and performance-adjacent folks who we're gonna do some improv activities and talk about how talk about the relationship between improv, performance, and role-playing because Karen's got a book out. But I'll start off with Aaron. Hi, Aaron. How you doing?
Oh God, that's me. I always feel unprepared for this part. Hi. Let's skip the how am I doing part because that's just weird things that are too long to talk about.
You're doing drugs.
I'm alive. No, I stopped.
You're doing not drugs. That's the bad thing. Yeah, sorry.
Yes, I'm doing undrugs, and it is problematic.
The worst.
Hi, I'm Aaron. She/her pronouns. I haven't been doing much as of late, but I kind of work occasionally on game design stuff, and I do kind of proofready, edity things for people. And I stream video games, and I do cooking streams. I really like to cook things. Yeah, and I guess in general, I'm just kind of like a big gay flirty person.
I'm on board. Next up we have Ben. Hi Ben, how you doing?
Hey Ash, I'm doing well. So my name is Ben Sherry. I am a Maltese Australian game designer and writer. I'm currently working with Cubicle 7 Entertainment. I guess I can say that. I actually don't know. So, well, it's now on the internet broadcast forever. Huzzah. That's pretty much me. I write games all day, every day, and sometimes I run them. And I'm hoping to run more of them soon.
Yeah, you've got one of my favorite Blades campaigns going at the moment.
Thank you.
Just as far as like the pitch of like, oh yeah, it's a Blades campaign where we run a newspaper. I'm like, great.
Yeah, communist newspaper, and to pay the bills, they print smut. That wasn't part of the pitch, but it became part of the pitch because Melody is involved, and and she makes everything printing. I mean, Brandon's also involved.
Yeah, really, you really set yourself up for that
fault.
one. You're like, right. Yes, we're going to play an intellectual game, and then you invited your entire cast, which was a mistake.
It would be okay. Here we are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense for the Blade setting to have like smut be more acceptable than
totally, yeah,
religious
even religious smut.
So that's what I'm saying. Smut is religiously aligned.
That's how they got into the smut trade, by pretending to be in the cult of the ecstasy of the flesh. So it's a whole thing.
Yeah. So check that out on Thursday nights. And then we have DC into your hat. How you doing?
Hello, I'm well. My hat is also doing very well. I'm DC. My pronouns are they, them. And I am a game designer currently working on Mutants in the Night. I am also a Twitch streamer, twitch.tv/Dungeon Commander. And yeah, that's all I do.
I mean, yeah, just a couple things. Yeah, just nice brief list. Is it Dungeon Commander with an E on Twitch, or is it without the E still?
Without the E. Toss it out of there like I toss that bottle. We don't have with these around here.
All right, good. I'm glad. All right. Just because we have everyone's Twitter handles, and I want to make sure that people can find.
I leave my E's in they and them.
Look,
nice.
That sounded way cleverer than it was.
Because without it, it's just thy, and that just.
That's a different pronoun. Thy is a different pronoun.
On that, Ash, sorry, there should actually be an underscore between Ben and Sherry.
There should. Okay, thank you for correcting me. This is what I do when I try and do it by memory.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. All right, how's that?
That never works out for me either.
Finally, we have our special guest author fancy person here today. Karen, hi. It's so nice to have
Hello.
you here on the channel.
Yes, hello. I'm Karen 12, so my pronouns are she, her. I wrote a book, which is very exciting. I have way too many gigs, and I also do a lot of proofready, editing things for games. But I also teach improv, both for performers and for gamers. And for, gosh, like 6 or 7 years now, I've been teaching improv for gamers at game stores and at conventions, and trying to practice like all of those lovely storytelling skills that we all have through like some fun group theater games. And so I put together a book that's a collection of a lot of the exercises that I do in the different workshops, because I have one that's kind of a focus on like what is improv, and like a very general beginnery one, and then I have a workshop that's more specific for like GMing skills, and then one for LARPing skills. But I switch things up depending on kind of what from the attendees, like what they're most interested in doing.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I've done stuff with theater groups, but it's always the other way around, right? Like bringing gaming stuff to improv groups, and it's and it feels like reading through like the skimming that I've done of the book. It's really interesting the kind of difference that you have to make when you're trying to teach people who are very because gaming can be a really a very like systemsy, hard lines. We only have things exist in the rules, depending on your on where you're coming from and what your history is in games.
I try to be really system agnostic. I mean, I think that improv is a useful skill in any part of life. I'm very much a improv for life all the time type of devout follower of improv. And I think any type of collaboration in terms of storytelling, regardless of the system, is going to be improved by having a helpful collaborative mindset of like, hey, I'm really excited to be here with you all and tell some stories, and like I'm gonna actively listen to your ideas and weave them into my ideas, and in the result, like we're all gonna be heavily invested in what's going on. And like for me, that's the main thing that I want to get out of like if people practice more improv, is like just being a better listener.
Yeah. I wanted to like, so DC, you said you'd done improv in high school? So you
I did, like a decade ago. And it was real good, and I remember a lot of it. During that time period, that was kind of the beginning of where I was working on my public speaking skills. And I was doing debate and improv and theater.
I feel like debate and improv are like two like weird sides of a coin. And like one is entirely about like helping people do things, like working together, and the other one is entirely about shutting someone down.
Like, yeah, because being able to identify like people's points and where they are trying to push in a certain direction, where their strengths and weaknesses are, in debate is like find that and then exploit that weakness, and then improv is like find that and then cover that weakness with your own strength. But all that stuff is still kind of humming around in my brain, and I agree, Karen, that a lot of that stuff has helped me in many places in my life. So I'm juiced. I think it's great.
I think improv is it's a muscle that needs to be stretched, and it can be stretched in so many different ways. And the ways that the things that I like to take away from improv is just adaptability and as I said, active listening and enthusiasm. And I feel like there's so many types of improv, just like there's so many types of gaming, and I'm certainly not like the expert on all of these.
I mean, given the current group, you are the person who's written a book, so yeah, like
Yeah, I mean it's funny. The book came out of the fact that I used to teach English as a second language, and just the type of teacher that I was, I wrote very complex lesson plans. So when I started teaching improv, I also wrote extremely complex lesson plans that were very scripted for me to make sure that I was hitting all the points that I wanted and explaining things and hitting all of the instructions. And so I had these very detailed lesson plans, and people would ask me sometimes after a workshop, like, hey, could I get a copy of that? Because they would see me with this like ream of paper
Yeah.
that I was referring to. And I'd be like, no, these are for me. They're written in a way that like you're not gonna, it's a mess. Like, please don't. don't look at these.
Yeah.
And then just decided, like, I think I need to actually put this out there, but it meant completely rewriting everything so that it was not written towards an improv coach, but written towards somebody who maybe didn't know anything about improv and wanted to pick up a book and practice a game or two. And so I had all these lesson plans, and I thought, like, well, the book is 2/3 written already, and I had to rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah, the plan never survives contact. So yeah, I'm looking through it. It's got a really nice spread of different stuff throughout the I really liked the fact that you've got a section about you got stuff for specifically like character creation and things like that, and all those sorts of things. If we want to do some stuff, where would you like to start out?
I mean, I like starting out with things from Warmers first because they're fun and they're like the lowest barrier of entry. And a lot of the things that are in the book are group games, which I prefer more because I'm really, in these workshops specifically, I'm not trying to actually make anybody feel pressured to be like a better actor for performance.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of group like practice of skills together. So I would love to go to the Warmers and play something. Something that would work really well over chat is 3 things. And I actually used to use 3 things when I taught ESL because it's a category game. And so I would use it to have my students drill each other on whatever we had just been studying. They could adapt the game for that. It's a really fun, just kind of like on your feet brainstorming game. And it's in the book on page, for those following at home, on page 12. The thing I love about the book, the PDF doesn't quite do it, but the book itself, when you open it up, every game is a 2-page spread, and I just love that because
whereas I've only got one
so
page
nicely
on display
organized
at any point in
and
time. It doesn't really convey it as well.
Yeah. But the PDF has it all split. But anyways, 3 things is a great category game to just kind of like get ideas flowing and get out of your head a little bit and be comfortable saying the things that come to mind rather than having that inner critic stop you of like, no, that's a dumb idea. So it's a great game to kind of just like get in the mood for being spontaneous. And it's a category game, as I said. So the way that we would play it is one person would call out another person by name and give a category. So I might say something like, hey, Ash, what are 3 things that are blue? And you would list just the first 3 things that come to mind. They don't have to be blue.
Yeah.
It's just the first 3 things. And then
the sky, and then the sea, and then a VW Beetle. I don't know.
Perfect.
Right?
Because it's always that third option that's like the weird one.
Yeah.
Like you go with the most obvious and like the second obvious, and then your brain really has to dig deep somewhere and you find something totally bizarre that's like wonderful and great. And I love games that require everybody to yell something at the same time and perhaps also do hand gestures. It's a personal
Action
favorite.
Castle.
Yeah, exactly. When you're playing this, with in person or even over chat, it's good to stay physically engaged And so doing a hand gesture or saying something at the same time keeps everybody listening. So after you say your 3 things, everybody would say 3 things, and you kind of pump your fists like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I invite you to try it. 3 things.
3 things.
Yeah. And you
Put in
can
school sound.
Try
yell it
real
as well.
hard. Try real hard to yell it, but also not peek my microphone.
Yeah. So it'll be a theatery yell of just an intense, normal speaking voice. So Ash, now you would come up with any random category and ask somebody else in the group.
Yeah. All right. So, Ben, things to get from a drive-through.
Burgers, a hot dog, and coffee.
3 things.
3 things.
Yes. Perfect.
And now I go for someone else?
Yeah, no, Ben, you would go ask someone else.
Okay, DC, 3 things that you can wear on your feet.
Socks, shirts, and hats.
3 things.
Aaron, 3 things that can fly.
A person shot out of a cannon, an airplane, and a brick if you throw it hard enough.
3 things.
You want to bounce back to me?
Yes. I had a thing, and then 3 different kinds of slime.
Oh, the green kind, the extra slimy kind, and the kind that has sand in it.
Oh, 3 things. That made me very uncomfortable. The sand. I'm like, no.
It's 2 very bad textures in one. Buy it now.
Yeah. So the thing I love about that game is the excitement that is built with everyone just wants to hear your 3 things so badly, and it creates this really great relationship of, wow, people are really excited to like hear my ideas even though they're totally random and I'm just making them up. And so not only are you kind of getting out of your head, but you build this great environment of anticipation of everybody's just like so excited for your idea, and it doesn't matter what your idea is, we're all going to yell and celebrate it.
And also I think it's really interesting because it because like I feel like you inherently start to be like, what would my 3 things be for any different category? Which really encourages.
I was doing that for all of them already.
I feel like I feel like one of the this is definitely the thing that I think Apocalypse World is trying to get towards when it talks about barfing forth apocalyptica. Like people like, oh yeah, like fill the world with like the images, and I'm always like, fucking fill the world with whatever images, man. Like whatever comes to your brain. Don't because I think it's really good to have things to practice that skill of getting out of your way.
Yeah. So 3 things is, I mean, I can play that forever. That's a common one that I play with any of my troops as a warm up, because it's just such a great way to get like words flowing. And so you try to get a little bit better at not stalling, because I definitely freeze up trying to get like the perfect character name, that's something that takes forever for me. And it doesn't, like I don't want to upset anybody, but it doesn't matter like what your character is named. Like it can be a super cool name, but like it's really okay if your character is named anything. Yeah. And I have to tell myself that like it's okay if I don't have whatever my mind is judging as like the perfect character name. So if I can be more in the mindset of just brainstorming a couple things really quickly and then picking one, then it's done. It's over with, and I don't have to like fret about it anymore.
Yeah.
So
and like I think the 3 things is also really good because it helps you with if you're a GM, it's a similar thing that you use for like three traits for an NPC, like go straight away.
Yeah, I mean you can use it for any type of brainstorming, and like I said, when I used it with my ESL students, we used to play it for vocabulary constantly, and it would be like, what are 3 verbs that you learned this week? What are 3 adjectives? What are 3 verbs that end in ing? And students would practice whatever they had learned that way, and they could quiz each other with it.
Yeah.
And they all did the 3 things, which was really fun and loud. My classroom was loud. But it's funny, Erin, that you mentioned, as you're listening to other people, like you're answering the questions yourselves, because it's really satisfying it's satisfying if somebody says the thing you were thinking, and 2, it's very delightful if someone says something that you never would have thought of.
Yeah.
There's that whole, we judge ourselves and our ideas, but the fact is that nobody else would have thought of that. So like our ideas are always going to be delightful and new to other people. So there's both of those things are true, is when someone says a thing you were thinking, it's great. And so when someone says things that you're not thinking, that's also great. And there's another game called Convergence on page 16. That is about that. That is about saying things at the same time.
I have played Convergence before.
Yeah, there's different ways to play it, and I put in one way, and I kind of, it's, of course, once the book is like finalized, you're like, no, I want to change it now. I was tempted to. There are other ways of playing it, so we're actually going to play a variant that's not in the book because it works better for chat.
Sure.
As opposed to physically being in a circle. A lot of these games are like, go around in a circle, but you can also bounce things across the circle, which is like what we'll do in chat, of just calling people out by name. So Convergence is like a word association game. And the way that we'll play it, it's going to take me a second to make sure that I'm explaining this one correctly. So the way that we'll play it, the first round, we start like totally cold. One person will think of a word, and they will say 1 to let people know that they have the first word. Somebody else will think of a second word, and they will say 2, so everyone knows they have the second word. And then both of those people will count together over chat, more or less at the same time. We'll say 1, 2, 3, and then blurt out our words. So the first round, like I said, it's totally cold. You're just going to be shouting out 2 completely random words. The second round, you'll try to find the word in between those 2 words, which is the convergence. So the example in the game is like, or the example in the book is if one person said like crimson and the other person said tree, maybe the convergence is redwood. But it's whatever makes sense for you in the middle. You're not trying to like figure out what's in the other person's brain of what they're going to think. But often there's that happy accident where 2 people end up saying the same word at the same time, and that's very exciting. And like that's kind of the point of the game. And sometimes that happens really quickly. Sometimes it doesn't happen and you get like really close, but eventually you have to call it, because then everyone gets sad and frustrated and you're like, we don't actually have to win this game. It's okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get really close and then suddenly drift really far apart, and
no
one can tell why.
I've played this with people who will, when we start like spinning, they'll give a totally random word, and they're like, sometimes you got to go out to come back in. And the point of the game is, it ultimately is not to say the same word at the same time, but to have fun and to think about what other people are thinking, and maybe you're anticipating them and you're in sync. Maybe they're delighting you with something totally different, and just having fun with both of those things. So we could totally play this. So the way that we do it first is the first round would be just totally random. And so I'll think of the first word, and then I would say 1, just to alert everybody else, and I've got the word in my head. Somebody else who wants to offer up a word is going to say 2.
2.
Yay! And now we'll count off 1, 2, 3, and we'll say our words at the same time. Okay. You ready? All right.
Yes.
1, 2, 3. Starfish.
Octopus. Whoa.
Oh,
Dang.
that's weird. So you said octopus?
Yes.
And I said starfish.
That's
So
yeah.
that's already so weird. I wonder what was influencing our thoughts there. So anybody can go now and try to find the word between those two, and it's whatever word you associate. And so whoever has an idea says one, another person says two, and you play it again.
All right, 1,
Mm-hmm.
2.
Okay.
right. 1, 2,
2,
3.
3.
An enemy.
Ocean.
Cool. Ocean and an enemy. Love it. Okay.
1.
Mm-hmm. 2.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Tide
Sea
pools.
life.
So you had sea life,
Sea life, yeah.
and I had tide pools.
Tide
And we're
pools.
getting
Oh,
there.
So good. I love tide.
We're
I
circling.
feel like we're kind of narrowing it a little bit.
Yeah, you start circling in on it. Okay, so tide pools and sea life.
Oh, okay. 1.
Mm-hmm.
2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shit, I forgot it. No. Okay, we're good. Got it. All right.
Mhm.
1,
1, 2,
2, 3.
3.
Stingray.
Tadpoles.
Oh. Tadpoles and stingray. Ooh, 1,
2.
1, 2, 3. Tails.
Hey!
No way!
Yeah.
Yes!
We got
Yes!
there.
Amazing.
Oh,
Well done.
Nicely
Little
done.
Yeah.
alley-oop there. I like it.
Do you want to start cold
that's so
again
good.
and do another set?
yeah. Yeah, let's try it again. That's so fun.
Alright.
It's so rewarding when that happens.
All right.
I've got a
1.
1.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Mhm.
I'll go 2 then.
Mhm.
Okay.
1,
1,
2,
2,
3.
3.
Black
concrete.
hole.
All right.
Black hole
And
and
concrete.
Huh.
concrete. Black hole and concrete.
1.
Mhm.
2.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
1,
1,
2, 3.
3.
Matter.
Apocalypse.
Completely opposite sides.
No, I like it. I love it. Matter and apocalypse.
Yeah, this is perfect. Okay, 1,
2. 1,
1,
2,
2,
3.
Mutant.
World.
What was
I
yours
said
then?
world.
Mutant.
I said
Mutant
world.
and world.
1,
Oh, 2.
1,
1,
2,
2,
3.
3.
Night.
X-Men. Did you say night?
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
That was a smooth reference to a popular role-playing game.
Okay. 1. We have Knight and X-Men. I think I can get this one.
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh, 2.
Mhm.
Okay. 1,
1,
2, 3.
3.
Nightcrawler?
Yes!
Hey!
Excellent.
So normally, like, this would be when I would call it because you don't want to like keep pushing. It's good to end on a high note with this game. But I love it, and again, it's a great kind of warm-up-y game to just it's so rewarding to like feel in sync with people.
Yeah,
So-
I definitely. That's one of the things that I like. I always say that like a good role playing game is where like the players, the GM, and the game itself are all singing in harmony, and that thing where you can start to like predict. Oh, I see what the moves of the story that you're doing
Yes.
are. That's always the coolest thing to when you can like
Yeah.
link in and make that happen
Yeah.
together.
I like that there's a part in the book that talks about, the group mind, and it's like, that's
Mhm.
why you don't let couples be on the same team in Pictionary.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because you know what the other one's thinking, but that's absolutely perfect in improv and in gaming to anticipate like what the other characters need in the story, and it's so validating when someone else thinks that about your character and they have this idea about you and shining a spotlight on you, and you're like, oh, yay, me, I love me. So yeah, group mind is really important. There's some other great exercises in the book that unfortunately don't work quite as well over chat. But actually, I just released the video for one of them today. It's called Go, and it's a silent game. It's a silent walking game where you like silently grant permission to people to move around a circle. And it was something that definitely would require a visual aid, perhaps. We recorded some videos a while back with a combination of local improvisers and gamer friends of some of these that I thought might benefit from having like an actual play video. And because they have a little bit more of a physical element that is best illustrated that way. So I actually just put Go up on the website today and on my YouTube channel.
Awesome.
Nice.
Cool. I think it's really
yeah.
interesting the kind of difference that you have when you're playing in a physical space versus when you're playing in an online space. It creates very different like possible interactions. But at the same time, like I don't feel like either of them is better. It's just very different.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think at the end of the day, a lot of the core things from taking any type of improv class is going to be helpful no matter, you know, how you're communicating with other people, because it's all about listening and then being excited about other people's ideas. And then, you know, the whole yes and rule, I feel, is maybe not unpacked a lot when people reference.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that like I this is going to come up at some point because like I have a I get a lot of people being like, you know, yes and is really important for role playing. I'm like, but also yes but and no and like
yes, I agree.
Like there's a set of 4 things here that make like a diagram, make a little diagram that I think is actually really important to acknowledge all of them.
Yeah, yes and is not a blank check. To offer out whatever and feel like your scene partner or your fellow players at a table are obligated to weave into their story. And it's a really classic kind of mistake to get a little too excited, and maybe you've played 3 things a little too much and you kind of lost your filter and you're very excited about putting something weird out there, and then you turn into like a griever that's like having more fun because you're making people uncomfortable and you're like, yes and you have to do the thing and you don't. And I love that we have all of these great calibration tools in gaming so that you can let people know, like, I want to push to this line and I want to be able to, without making too much of an interruption to the game, like negotiate lines as I need to, which you don't have on the stage.
Yeah.
So, you know, you either have to like put up with it or be incredibly clever and savvy to twist it around so that somehow your character narratively has the upper hand, and like that's a lot of work. And then you just like don't get on stage with that person ever again in your life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
I think choosing who to play with is an under discussed role playing skill.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
I feel I've been very lucky in some ways because I've you know, sometimes I go to conventions and you hear in seminars people are asking things like, well, what do I do about this problem gamer? And my answer is, we'll just never invite them again. But I live in a big city with a very vibrant gaming community and a plethora of people that I could invite to the table if I wanted to. And I have not been in an area where I've felt very like locked into like, well, these are my gaming friends, and it would be extremely awkward to tell somebody not to play.
I feel like that's one of the things that I really like about online play is that like
Mm-hmm.
you have a much broader range of people that you could potentially play with, which is really nice.
Especially if the person who's a problem isn't the DM, because like sometimes it's hard to find somebody who wants to DM a game, but like usually if you have somebody who's willing to DM, players will just kind of line up, and then you can find one that fits well with the group.
If you can't find a DM, be the DM. Is my
that's
But then I've been a DM my entire role playing career since for like the last 15 years. So like that's easy for me to say. Like it's like
I got 2 sessions into 4E, and then the guy was like, I hate being a DM. And then I did it and started a podcast.
Yeah, awesome.
So, you
Well,
know.
all right. Yeah.
Do you feel like there are because I'm tempted to say that I don't feel like this is the case, but I'm curious to know, Karen, do you feel like there are activities or things in the improv stuff that is more appropriate to or more useful for a GM or for a player specifically?
Yeah, so definitely for a GM, there are some things in there that work on finding the beat, and the beat is kind of an improv term that would be the place that you would edit a scene. And I'm going to use edit instead of cut because cut has a very different meaning in a lot of gaming circles as a safety tool. But it's when you end the scene. Which is often called editing. So a beat could be like a laugh. It could just be a place that feels really good, like we've seen the end of that story and we're ready to change channels and go to the other story. You could edit a scene because your scene partners are floundering on stage and have clearly run out of ideas and are uncomfortable and would like somebody to get them off the stage, please. And so you can bail them out by editing a scene then. So there are some games that help you kind of get that feeling for where is the beat. So as a GM, you have a better idea of being able to move the spotlight around, because that's a huge skill, is giving equal spotlight time and knowing when is the point to put a pause on one story to go over to the other one, see how they're doing, and then check back in. So there are a couple different ones that are good for that. I don't think that they work quite as well over chat.
Yeah.
But they're in the timing chapter. Clap, clap, snap, snap, and split screen are both really good ones about finding the beat.
Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to going and checking those out, because that's the thing that and I think that's the thing that where it's really good to be able to communicate about that stuff as well, because often it'll be like, okay, let's finish. Oh, you got another thing to say, right? Like,
yeah, you have to be really firm as the director of just like, I'm gonna pause you there, and I definitely, in my experience of GMing, get really nervous about feeling like I'm talking over somebody, but you really do have to like be firm sometimes, or you have that person that's going to keep talking because they feel like, oh, the spotlight's on me and it's not going away. I need to keep filling,
even though they would like the thing to be finished.
I need to keep filling this void with sound. Like you're both, wishing that the other one would do something about it. There's actually a great exercise from the timing chapter. If two people are excited on trying this out, it's called Color in Advance, and this is a great GMing skill, which is knowing when to balance plot versus scenery.
Ooh, I'd love to try that.
It's on page 78. I go to it myself in my PDF. So it's a game that's best done in pairs, and it's useful on both sides, and it's really good to play it with lots of different people, because people have different preferences about how much plot they want versus how much they want to just like hear the descriptions, and hear the box text. That can be like super exciting.
Oh, that sounds rad.
Yeah. So you play it in pairs, and one person starts by telling a short story. And again, the way that I've put these in this workshop, in this book, is to really try to not put pressure on people to be entertaining. Like it's a skills workshop. It doesn't really matter what the story is. You could be retelling a movie that you saw or a book that you read. It doesn't have to be an original story. And I kind of let people know, like, it's really okay, because that's not what we're practicing. What we're practicing is switching between the plot and describing the setting. So one person would start by telling a story, and another person is going to listen. And again, you have that same thing with three things, is you have somebody who's very excitedly like your audience and wants to listen to you and is there for you. And they're going to interject at some point by saying color, at which point you would just like pause the plot and switch to describing any element of the story. So what the character sees, what the smells are like, what the weather is like, what sounds are there. If you had just stopped on describing like an ancient sword and your partner might say, ooh, color on the sword, you're going to describe all the intricate inlays on the sword and the hilt and where it was forged. And when the listener has like had enough and like had enough details, they're going to just say, okay, advance. And that means go back to the plot. And then you just keep going to the story. So it's these like timeouts to timeout, describe that thing in complete and utter detail. And you'll notice in different pairs, people have different preferences on how much plot versus how much color they want. And you'll often notice for yourself, like which ones come easier to you. And maybe you're perfectly adept at both, but maybe you have a preference for one over the other. And that's just a good awareness as a GM to know, like, maybe I'm a little too heavy on the plot and I don't tell people, like, you know, what to imagine in our theater of the mind.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing that, like, I've had to work on because I'm a person who doesn't see things in my mind very clearly.
That's very surprising to me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So that's the thing is that
Sorry, can I just call a quick timeout? Sorry, I've got to very quickly deal with something. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's totally fine. Should we take a break? Well, let's take a 5-minute break anyway.
Okay.
We're nearly on the hour, so let's do that.
Sure.
Okay.
And we'll go back and play some Colin and Nuts afterwards.